This week we turn against technology with some mechanical marvels from Konstantin Chaykin and his latest Joker creation. Kronos Swiss delight us with their Delphus, Dracula, Horizon in June, and we head to Bikini Bottom to celebrate 25 years of SpongeBob SquarePants. All this and more on today's show. Well, I'm glad to see mechanical wristwatches have been keeping time across the planet while maybe other things have not been working out so well, Dave.
And as I run on a Mac, and well, unfortunately Windows is still the operating system of choice of Ricky, but I don't think he's suffered because probably doesn't use any protection, you know, that old protection thing. Does Ricky use protection?
Ricky does not compute bareback, Ricky uses protection, but he doesn't use CrowdStrike, he uses ESET. We should get on with the show and chat about some new wristwatches, and the first thing to do is to give you a heads up. We have been dropping some breadcrumbs the last couple of weeks because our latest limited edition collaboration watch is just about to be announced. It is something a little bit different, so I would recommend everybody keeps their eyes up the way towards the skies, and in the next week or so you will find out all about what we've been working on for about half a year. Lots of testing, lots of prototypes. We actually involved one of our listeners, a dear friend who's been with us for many, many years, helped us out in various ways across that time, and he is involved in the process of our latest creation. But more on that shortly. Time to get busy and get on with the show.
We should, but before we carry on with the first watch, check out the show notes. We need to keep Miziel happy, but definitely check the show notes out because you will see pictures, more information and links to everything that we are going to be talking about. So make sure you do that.
Those show notes will be in your podcast player. Click the link, it'll take you to our website. All the tech spec, the pictures, they'll all be listed in chronological order so you can scroll down as you're listening to us. And if you're watching us on YouTube, that link will be in the description below. So click that and that'll take you across and all the information will be there at your fingertips. The first watch we're going to talk about is a bit of a Transylvanian theme. Nothing to do with Romania, Dave. Transylvania this time, not Bulgaria. And it's from a brand that we love because we were introduced to them in person maybe 2.5 years ago. Our first trip across to Dubai Watch Week, and we met up with the CEO of Kronos Swiss. Now, the first thing that attracted me was the amazing dials, the way that they had integrated new technology with old world ways of creating guilloche patterns and then using a CVD process to put a die coat on top. It reminded me of the best looking hot rod cars, American muscle cars from the States that go to SEMA and all these different shows. These dials were incredible. The price point was not insane. It wasn't 50 grand, 150 grand. It was fairly economical for what you were getting. And every year we look forward to catching up with them at Geneva Watch Days or Watches and Wonders or, as I said, Dubai Watch Week. But they're back with a trio. Not a double bill, but a triple header. So Dave, tell us all about these.
Well, we all know Ricky loves a triple header. So what are we talking about here? We're talking about a new range of Delphus models from Kronos Swiss. Now, Kronos Swiss, who are Kronos Swiss? A brand that probably doesn't get the attention that it maybe should do. We definitely try and talk about it when we can, but maybe not getting the mainstream press covering it like it should. Interestingly, they started in Germany. The name gives the idea that they might have started in Switzerland, but no, they started in 1983 in Munich in Germany. The company was taken over and is now definitely firmly situated in Switzerland. But what do? They kind of blend this traditional techniques and complications with a more modern packaging in terms of their watch, whether it be the colours, the aesthetics or the design, is definitely towards the more avant-garde, but lots of those very traditional watchmaking skills on show. One of the big one is guilloche. Nearly every time, in fact, I think actually maybe every time we've seen them, they've had a little guy sitting at a guilloche machine on their booth showing their skills of what they can get up to. And as Ricky's mentioned in the past, they've used a lot of PVD and colour plating in order to bring brighter colours to the watch. In the case of these three models, which go by the name of Dracula, Horizon and June, they've also brought another more traditional technique to the fore, that being Grand Feu enamel. So they have this Grand Feu enamel on top of the guilloche parts of the watch. So lots of traditional techniques here. So Ricky mentioned there's three of them. We've already named what they are. Two of them have titanium cases. One has a red gold case, that being the Dracula. As you can probably guess from the Dracula and red gold, maybe that blood theme is coming in here as well.
Well, out of the three, Dave, what is your favourite colour? Because I can't decide. I love blue. That is my favourite colour in general, but I'm loving the Dracula with the rose gold. And the June has got Iron Brew vibes. So as a true Scotsman, I'm really conflicted.
Well, I have to say, I really do like all three as well. I think for me, really the one I want the most is the one that doesn't exist, which would be the red in the titanium case, but unfortunately that is only available in the red gold case, which is not a bad thing, as red gold has definitely got a lovely hue to it. I think Dracula is going to be my favourite, I have to say. Anyway, the Horizon one gives you indications of what the colour might be. That's the blue, the horizon, the sky we're looking at, and obviously Dune in these kind of sandy colours. Three colours that are definitely making the rounds amongst the watch brands. We've seen reds, blues, and these sandy colours with more than one brands probably over the last 12 to 18 months. That's no bad thing though. They're definitely colours that work, and they're not quite as boring as the white dials or the blue dials or the black dials that are more traditionally found. 42mm cases, so not tiny but also not massive. 14.5mm in height, and pretty wearable, I would say, for most folk. Obviously, a lot of little trademark design cues that you would get from the brand. That big onion crown in there, and you've got lots of these kind of beveled edges on there as well. Really like it. 100 meters of water resistance. Of course, lots of nice little tips and points. The Dracula comes in a presentation box that is a coffin. Of course it does. Maybe a couple of brands have played this game as well, but nice to see another brand jumping on and thinking, let's take it the whole hog and not just give you a boring normal box.
Nothing worse than a boring box, Dave.
No one likes a boring box. Moving in here, developed by La Jouperet, which meaning you obviously have a lovely, good quality Swiss caliber running in this watch. Open worked tungsten rotor. Now, on the front of this watch, you've got this kind of fan-shaped area that's been guillocheed at the top. Did I mention it's a jumping hour complication? No, I did not.
Did you mention it's a regulator movement as well?
I didn't mention that either, but I was getting to that. With jumping hour, we have regulator, we have a small sub-seconds. The sub-seconds area at around 6 o'clock, and this fan-shaped area, which kind of covers from 9 o'clock round to 3 o'clock in the dial, all done in guilloche with the Grand Fou enamel on top.
Did you tell them that's a retrograde, Dave? Are you missing key information here?
It's going to be one of these episodes, isn't it? Well, that's why we have show notes, because you go to the show notes and you get all of the correct and accurate information, unlike just listening to us. Anyway, back to what I was saying. You have those areas, the fan-shaped area that I've talked about a few times, and the sub-seconds in the guilloche with the Grand Fou enamel. You've got the retrograde, you've got the jumping hour, you've got all of these features that, check out the show notes for full information. But on the back, the rotor's been skeletonized, because if you look in the dial at around the 4 o'clock area and the 7 o'clock area, you will see the two bridges coming in. The rotor on the back has been skeletonized and has a very kind of similar theme and vibe to it as well. So you've got that nice connection between the front and the back of the watch going on. 55 hours of power reserve, pretty respectable, I would say. Coming on a black rubber strap with a folding deployant clasp. Now, Ricky mentioned at the start, price point for these watch. They're definitely not pocket money watches, but for what you're getting, I would say they are extremely strong value for money. This 18 karat red gold limited edition with the Dracula theme is coming in at 38,000 Swiss francs. Yes, a lot of money, but not crazy money considering you're talking about a gold watch here. And the titanium pieces coming in at under 20,000 Swiss francs. I believe 19,800 to be precise. All of these watches, all three models, are limited edition to 50 pieces, so you're definitely not going to see too many of these out in the wild if you do decide to commit to one. Check out the show notes for all of the information, and definitely check out the pictures because our descriptions haven't done it justice.
I've decided the one I'm going to go for. Oops, sorry, I didn't mean I'm going to go for one because I'm buying a house, Dave. I'm not buying any watches. So the one I like the best is the Dracula. I'll tell you why. Because none of them have got colour matched date discs. But it turns out if you've got a dark coloured material, having a black date disc seems to work quite well. And this one has got a different type of guilloche pattern. It's more like the Garrick that we were talking about recently, or the Garrick that I picked up a few months ago. And the other one's the blue and the Dune that's iron brew coloured. It's more of a turbine, a spiral effect. So I think the rose gold one definitely does win. And one of their design aesthetics, as well as these bridge arrangements that you talked about, that's almost like a bow and arrow style bow. It's got the onion crown, which some people really like, some people despise. I think it works great on this. And with the regulator movement, the retrograde, the jumping hour, you've got three fantastic complications, adding in a finishing touch of a guilloche, adding in the Grand Fou enamel. The price point, when you add those component parts together, the finishing, all the bits and bobs, and then it's limited to 50 per colourway. I think that's decent. A lot of brands are kind of up. some of the bigger boys, some of the independents. I think this is a decent, not a value proposition, but a considered purchase, and one that I'm looking forward to seeing when we go across to Geneva shortly.
I think compared to what you might pay from the more commoner garden high street brands, huge value for money in these watches, but we will reiterate, definitely a considered purchase. So yes, we will get to hopefully see these in the next few weeks when we're over in Geneva, and we can maybe get some real world pictures of them.
But anyway, we should probably move on. And you guys have been busy. We ask you every week if you've got something you want to talk about, you get some comments, feedback, suggestions about guests, products, anything at all, drop us an email, don't DM us. We showed you why last week too. So that email address is info@scottishwatches.co.uk, and we have one in, Dave, and you love one in.
I love one in, so I will let it fall out of my mouth. Hello again. I am a subscriber to your YouTube channel, and I have been for a year now. I also listen to your podcasts. Lately, I cannot get access to your shows on YouTube. Roughly for every 4 shows, all 4 will be on the podcast, but maybe just 1 out of the 4 will appear on your YouTube channel. Is there any reason for this? As much as I love the podcast, every now and then, you just need to see the product on the YouTube channel. Much love, Jonathan. We do have an answer, and Ricky's about to give it to you.
Yes, there is a reason, and that reason is it takes dramatically more amounts of time and energy to actually edit a video and get it produced and then get it uploaded and all the rest of it versus the podcast. And because we do 2 shows a week and Dave works for Araj, we're going to talk about some really good stuff that Dave's been up to with the team that he only let me into about maybe a couple of days ago there. You're going to love this. But back to the question in hand, it takes maybe 5 to 10 times as much energy, effort, time and expense to edit a video and put that content out. If you look at a TV show with multiple camera angles, you've got cut-ins of videos, you've got overlays, there's a team that take a long time to do that. There aren't many watch channels out there that put out more than an hour's worth of video content per week. That's kind of where we're at just now. Sometimes we do manage it. Sometimes Gav gets a little bit of extra time. Things go well. His editor doesn't crash and he's able to put an extra show maybe around about a Tuesday or a Wednesday. We did that last week. We did it a couple of months ago. We've done it when, for instance, we've had a brand on and they're doing a very specific launch, but we have to sort of burn the midnight oil, burn the candle at both ends to get that done. We are trying to get quicker. We are trying to cut some corners, not with the quality, but the amount of time that's involved. So hopefully over the coming months, we'll be able to actually get more content on YouTube. But we definitely do at least 1 show a week. That is a given. So I don't know what you mean by 1 out of every 4. It's 1 out of every 2, sometimes slightly more than that. And we are cherry picking the episodes of the podcast where we get the most feedback. For instance, a lot of people have asked for the episode with the police officers, giving you details on how to avoid becoming a victim of watch crime, robberies and frauds. That one is going to appear on YouTube shortly, along with some of the collector conversations. Recently, we had Tim Mancuso, who was on the show, and he was talking about collecting, how he got into it, his car obsession, it moved into a watch obsession. That one went down very well. Although we did run into some bother with his episode when we put it on YouTube, because he mentioned spotting a rather orange-looking fella in the States at the Formula One, and the mere mention of that individual's surname with no information around it whatsoever apart from I saw him at the Formula One, got that video yanked and it actually dropped down the rankings because it had 1 word inside it. That is absolutely insane. Thank you, YouTube, for that one. But no, that is the reason why we only have 1 episode per week on YouTube at the moment, but we are trying to move things along, and we should probably move the show along, Dave.
We should. But while we're talking about that, if you love it, you should subscribe. If you're on YouTube, make sure you hit that button and subscribe to the channel. And of course, if you're following along, make sure you tune in and watch what we're producing every week.
Now, last year when we went to Geneva Watch Days, one of the highlights was watching my fiancé going spare, going absolutely crazy, because Konstantin Chaykin, that infamous watch creator, designer, manufacturer, of absolute high regard across the world, was over in Geneva, and she got to meet him, chat about things, and she speaks a little bit of Russian, so they managed to communicate in a way that me and Dave can't even communicate in English. But he is back, he has got something to show us, and this is in the Wristmon series. Started off with the Jokers, there have been so many across the years, Minions, Dracula, funnily enough, many years ago, lots of variations, Harlequin, tie-in with DC Comics, etc, etc. And we've got something new to talk about here today, and because you actually own one of these guys, I'm going to let you explain all about it.
Of course you are. Nice pass off, but yes, indeed, we're talking about another of the Wristmon series. Amazingly, it's only 7 years since these first graced our wrists. Back in the spring of 2017, the Wristmons, the original Joker, broke its way onto the scene. It does feel a lot longer ago than that, but no, it is only a mere 7 years ago. And obviously that first limited edition in steel sold out very quickly, which was quickly followed up by another very limited run of the same watch in titanium, which again sold out very quickly. It's always been fair to say that he didn't want to just keep repeating the same. Now, the theme, yes, but not just keep pushing out Jokers. I'm sure he could have sold many more if he decided to up the production numbers, but he always wanted to be creative. Different characters, different looks, different feels, and obviously, as we've seen more recently, many more complications being integrated into these watches as well. Also in 2017, people maybe don't realise, but he did introduce the clown and the pumpkin head in the same year that the original Joker was launched. Now, there have been around 40 different Wristmon characters that he's produced, everything from the original Joker, we've got the Martian Tourbillon, we had the Stargazer that had around 17 complications in there as well. But we have a new character in town, this being the Joker Fiat Lux. This is a special limited edition for China, and we don't actually have all the information about this. I certainly haven't been able to pin down a price for it yet, but he wanted to take the original Joker and skeletonize it. And I believe this is the first time that we've had the original Joker style watch where he's opened up the dial to allow you to see that module that he designed that sits on top of that original ETA movement. Never been seen before, certainly not been seen other than by the watchmakers. So he's opened this up, and whilst it's definitely got that same theme, the eyes and the mouth, it looks like a very different beast from the original Joker. You've still got that bezel with the set of playing cards and of course the Joker at 12 o'clock, so that's got that very much a nod back to the original. You've got the stainless steel case. Size wise, very much similar, 42mm in there as well, so many things are similar, if not the same as the original, but this watch looks entirely different. It's got the automatic caliber that they call the K070, which is essentially an ETA 2824-2 with Chaykin's module on top of it, which allows the moon phase and of course the eyes to operate as the hours and minutes time indication. I think this looks great. You've got a little bit of weight saving, 15 grams precisely, where he's taken all of the extra metal out during that skeletonizing. Not that you'll probably notice that 15 grams in your wrist, but sometimes every gram counts.
The grams count.
I think this is a really nice take on that original, relatively simple Joker. Let's be fair, the original Joker compared to some of the much more high complication models that have released in the past few years is simple in Chaykin terms, and it's nice to see another take on it that looks very different, but with that skeletonizing, just opening things up and letting you have a little peek inside. Also, I believe for the first time is you have a display case back on this original style Joker watch. And because of that, he has now gone for a full-size rotor, and it has the waves that I guess give that connection again to the dial on the front of the watch. So similar to Kronos Swiss, where you have the rotor and the bridges matching, the rotor and some of the kind of skeletonizing on this watch. So again, that nice harmony between the front and the back of the watch, and of course the big J for Joker in the middle of the rotor. I don't have a price, I don't have availability, all I know is it's a special edition for China, but check out the show notes and of course on YouTube if you want to get a better look at what we're talking about.
Oh, I get to talk now. Excellent. Yeah, I like this one. It's not my favourite. I'm not big on the skeletonization of it. I was looking at this as you were talking, and it's probably my least favourite, because the thing I love the most about the Joker is the fact you've got the two googly eyes, and they just kind of disappear on this. The mouth area, I don't know, looks like a peppermint zebra. And that's not a negative thing, it's just it's not really what I think of when I think of the Joker. And the fact you can see through, you can see some of the wheels with their brass coloration, that draws the eye more than the actual eyes on the dial itself. So this one for me is not a big win, but it's not just Chaykin that has got a release ahead of Geneva Watch Days, and that is coming thick and fast. We are about 4 weeks, maybe 3.5 weeks away by the time you hear this and see this, that we will be going across to Switzerland. That doesn't mean much for Dave. He is there half the time, but for me, it's a little adventure 3-4 times a year where I get to go across. Sometimes we do a factory tour, we go and meet people that we know. Other times it's Watches and Wonders. Other times it's obviously Geneva Watch Days. And we're bringing an assortment of folks with us. It's going to be myself, Dave, Simona, and Gav is coming across. And if you're coming across, drop us an email, info@scottishwatches.co.uk, and we will catch up, because some of our buddies are going to be there. Only for a short amount of time, but Nicholas from Fears Watches is going to be there, the folk from eBay, the folks from Formex. It's going to be a good time, and the weather is far better than Scotland, so looking forward to that. But another guy that we caught up with last year when we were across there was the gentleman who runs Raketa. And funnily enough, they have a watch out round about the same time as Chaykin is dropping this one, so we might as well talk about this one as well.
So Raketa have refashioned the Russian art-inspired avant-garde watch. Now this is a watch that has been in the historical catalogue of Raketa, but they've decided to give it a little bit of a refresh and a modernisation. The theme of this is based around a 1919 Bolshevik propaganda poster from the Russian Civil War. So they've taken this watch, which has absolutely been in the range before, but given it a little bit of uplift. What have they done? Rather than having the numerals, the 0, the 3, the 6 and the 9 on the dial, they are now depicted as words. You also have more significant superluminova on the hands, just to give it that more brightness in the darker hours, so that you can still tell when you're wearing your propaganda watch what it's telling you in terms of the time. I like this. I have to say, there's many a Raketa watch that comes out that is something I enjoy. I think Ricky enjoys them more than me. He has more than I have, which is something rare in the world of watches. But Ricky, you are the Raketa guy. What do you say about this one?
Well, we did a show with David Henderson Stewart, who is the guy that runs Raketa now, and he's not Russian. We've mentioned this before, and we've met up with him across the world, again, Dubai, and again at Geneva Watch Days. And he's a cool dude who took a very interesting company that was on its last legs, and he took the guys that were working there that had been there for decades and decades, these watchmakers, and he modernised things. Obviously there are some problems in the world at the moment. That's one of the reasons we generally don't talk about this stuff as much as we did in the past, but since stuff's getting covered just now, this new Raketa is getting covered with the likes of Watch Pro, Rob Corder down south, the folks in the States are talking about it. We thought, well, if they can talk about it, we can talk about it. Everybody gives Chaykin a pass, we can talk about these guys. The design in this one, it's very monochromatic. It does have touches of red, but it's predominantly white, and it reminds me of Airfix, Meccano, things like that, but borrowing some of the key technologies, I suppose, from the Copernic, the ones, well, I've actually got two of them. I've got a modern version and I've got a 1980s edition. They've mixed and matched all these bits and bobs together quite well. And the thing with Raketa releases is you can see there is design there, but just slightly underneath, you've got that industrial feel, as if, you know, it's it's like looking at an aircraft that's got riveted panels, but they've done a quick spray paint over the top. You can still see underneath what's going on, and these are genuine in-house movements coming in at a price that is not absolutely crazy. And I think we should probably move on from that and do the wrist check, Dave.
Well, I always come second, so you're definitely coming first.
Well, since we've talked about Chaykin, since we talked about Raketa, it gives me an opportunity to chat about a watch that I have not talked about on the show, even though I got this a long time ago. And this is a variation of one of the Raketa classics. It's called the Russian Code. And the difference here is, to look at it, you're going to feel as if something is amiss. If you watch the YouTube video, you're going to see that something is amiss because the dial runs counterintuitively. It runs backwards, as does the movement, as do the hands. So if you're watching on YouTube, you will see that lollipop second hand going past the 9 position, hitting the 10 position, but in a normal watch that would be around about the 3 position, the 2 position, coming up to the 1. This uses, as I mentioned earlier, one of their in-house calibers, and it is very understated. It has got a look that is quite reminiscent, as Dave mentioned to me earlier on, of Frederic Constant or maybe Mont Blanc or something like that, because it has got a globe and a kind of man from U.N.C.L.E. look about it, with those massive big numerals that run backwards, a healthy dose of, well, anti-reflective coating on the front, almost hiding the studio lights but not quite enough, and it has got a bulbous crystal on top, a big sapphire that you don't actually notice until I tilt it to the side and you can see exactly what that is like. If I pop it off the wrist, you'll see it has got a clear case back with that in-house caliber inside and a decorated, anodized and engraved rotor. I quite like this watch. It's not my favourite Raketa. I would definitely say the Copernic is my favourite, the original and the newer one, but having a movement that runs backwards is something that I definitely could not turn away from when I was offered the opportunity of getting this at a ridiculously good price a few months ago. So that is my wrist check for today. Don't often get the opportunity to chat about it. Hopefully the guys across there will get more screen time, airtime, column inches as we move forward, because as we've said many times before, just because the guy in charge of your country can be a bit of a dick doesn't mean you should have to pay the price. And different countries, maybe English-speaking countries, have spotted that over the past few years too. Dave, what you got on the wrist?
I thought, seeing as we also talked about Chaykin, I should break out the Joker, because the Joker's not been out for a while and he was getting a little bit grumpy in the watch box. So here we have the original, well, should I say the second original, as this is the titanium edition. The very, very original was in the stainless steel, closely followed by the titanium. Only 88 pieces of these. This is one of the OGs. Of course, wearing his special suit strap, so we have his crazy green hair at the top and we have his collar and tie at the bottom. I've even gone to the effort of setting the time and the moon phase correctly. The tongue within the mouth is the moon, so that's where the moon phase indication is. And of course, as you can see here, indicating the time at just past, we're coming up for 3 in the afternoon. As Ricky mentioned, compared to the one we talked about earlier, you don't have the skeletonized dial here, but you have lots of guilloche work, and it is definitely very cartoon-like and fun to watch. No open case back here, just a solid case back with the Jai in the centre and the engravings in the titanium case back. Definitely one of my favourite watches, one that I very much hope never has to leave the collection, and the longer it stays there, the more I enjoy it. I go through phases of wearing this for weeks at a time, then he gets put, because he's a bad boy, back in the box, and he has to stay there until it's okay for him to come back out again. But I think now I have him out, he's going to see a little bit of summer wear. Not, of course, that we have much summer in Scotland.
Fair enough, Dave, and I suppose you should tell us what you've been up to, because we've been teasing some Araj information for a while, and to be fair, considering you work there and you're intrinsically linked with the design, the development, the creation, the marketing and the sales of their watches, you don't lean too heavy into it on this show. It's only rarely that we talk about things with Araj, and this time we need to talk about it because there has been a change of technology. We talked about it at the very beginning of the show, the fact some people are stuck in Windows 3.1. Well, Dave has got Windows 11 with all his service packs updated. So tell us about what's happening at Araj HQ.
As Ricky mentioned, yes, it is my day-to-day job, and I try not to over-egg it on the show. We've got lots of other cool watches to cover, but we have been working hard on something.
And I should just jump in and quickly say a big massive thanks to the folks at Araj, Andy, Zoo and the rest of the team there, because when Dave joined the company, and he'd been doing the podcast for about 2-3 years before that, one of the things they said was they wanted him to continue to be impartial in the show. So every time he comes on here twice a week and he talks about the latest releases from this company or that company, he's open and honest, and he's never trying to persuade people to go and look at Araj stuff. So I'm going to persuade people to go and look at Araj stuff, including this.
So what are we talking about? We've been working on a project with a technology partner who are a small company that are also based in Beale. And we've been looking into the whole world of regulation when it comes to watches.
Nothing to do with Warren G.
Nothing to do with Warren G. No, indeed not. Working on a technology with a partner in Beale. That partner being a company called Mini Swiss. Now, what are Mini Swiss all about? They're a company who make very innovative, very small actuators. And we've had an idea in our head about regulation. We obviously know that silicon over the last 20-30 years has come into watches and revolutionised the area of escapements. Brands like Ulysse and Ardan really at the forefront of that technology. But we decided, what can we do to push through the next, as we've called it, a revolution, the next revolution in regulation? We decided to use technology, but big danger suddenly comes into the arena here. When you use technology, as many others have done, such as quartz watches, maybe even things like spring drive, you can have amazing results, super accurate watches, super accurate regulation, but maybe you take too far away from the narrative of a pure mechanical watch. And our whole idea in our heads was, how can we maintain the integrity of a mechanical watch while still having the ability to do very small amounts of adjustment and regulation, even potentially personalizing the regulation to the individual wearing the watch? And the answer happened to come from Mini-Swiss, who have tiny little, technically they're motors, but we call them actuators, but they have no wires, they have no coils, they have no magnets. The little actuator they make, in fact, only consists of two materials, either stainless steel and titanium and a ceramic plate. These are ones, though, that can be agitated with an external stimulation of a small voltage of electricity, nothing inside the watch, but when brought alive, can be made to do magical things in terms of tiny incremental time adjustments to the regulation of the mechanical escapement. So unlike maybe some of the other proposed technology solutions that have come over the last years, this doesn't replace the regulation organs of the watch. It is an enhancement that allows for these micro adjustments to be made. And what do we call this? We call this microreg. Short for, of course, micro regulation. Now, check out the show notes because it is a relatively technical subject, and there will be a link in the show notes that Mizia will put that will lead you to a page that you can read all about what is happening.
Well, it's been a couple of years since we had Araj officially on the show for a podcast. We did stuff last year when we obviously went across to Spain and we caught up with the guys there, but I think it's your duty to get some technical bods on the show that can explain this even better than you can.
You're absolutely correct. We should definitely get a couple of our technical brains on, a bit like Pinky and the Brain, where I'm Pinky and they are definitely the brain, who can give more of an insight into this. But I do recommend going along, checking out what you can see on the website, reading, and of course, if you have any questions, do email them in, don't DM them, email them in, and we can possibly pose those to someone definitely more technically capable than I am at a point in the future when we get them onto the show. Needless to say, we're super proud of this technology. We think it's genuinely something new and different, so much so, in fact, that it's one of the few instances where we have registered a patent for it and it's been all submitted to the patent office. But in traditional Araj fashion, this is a technology that if other brands wish to work with us or share it, we are very much open to having discussions with them. We don't want to lock it in a safe, never to be seen again, like maybe some other brands might do. Exciting times. It is literally just launched as you're listening to this, so check out the website if you want more information, and of course you know where to find us if you have any questions.
Cool. Now, we could obviously delve quite deep into how all this works, blah blah blah, but we will keep that because I think we definitely do need to drag some people onto the show. I've been pestering Dave for a long time and he's told me to hold off. I wanted to have the guys on to talk about watches a few months ago when we actually met Andy over at Geneva at Watches and Wonders. But Dave was sticking to his guns and now I realise why, because he doesn't even tell me ahead of time. I had a week's notice on this. He said, keep some space in the show because news is coming down the wire. And this is obviously it. And I know that the price point for this technology is not going to add an extra £10,000 or £5,000 or £3,000 to the cost of a watch. It's pretty economical when you find out behind the scenes what's going on. So definitely check the show notes and that link will be in the podcast player. It will be in your YouTube description. Anything else you've been up to, Dave, or should I tell people what I've been doing?
I've not really been up to much because, as you can probably imagine, for the last 2 weeks of my life, I've been firmly up to my proverbials in all of this work, whether it be the website and or press releases, etc., etc. So why don't you tell the audience about all the exciting things that you've been up to that probably are slightly dangerous and stupid?
Well, I wasn't doing any slightly dangerous or stupid things, but I caught up with what used to be a TV show. And I know that it was across the world. It was The Masked Magician, and he would reveal secrets. There were various different names for the TV shows, but the narrator was Skinner from the X-Files, so you probably know what I'm talking about now. And this guy would explain how stage magicians and TV magicians would do this, that, and the other. I used to watch it back in the 90s, back in the 2000s, but the people behind it have taken those videos, those clips, and taken out the individual segments and uploaded it to their YouTube channel. This isn't a recent thing, they've been doing this for years, but over the past year, they have got high definition versions all uploaded. So instead of sitting there through all the waffle and the BS or the adverts, if you've got YouTube Premium, which I recommend if you spend a lot of time on YouTube, it's worth the £10 a month, you can sit there and you can watch the individual parts of the individual shows. So I get caught in one of those deep dive hellholes where for about 2-3 hours I was watching how different tricks were done, and there was a lot of similarities behind things. And I can see back in the 90s and the 2000s why people were distracted when magicians were on stage by the assistants and their attire. But moving on from that, I've been getting myself more into motorsports, not water sports, motorsports. After the F1 and been involved with that high octane action, I decided after a year to book in a session at the go-karts. So we went down there, I took my helmet cam with me, and we did a couple of sessions, me and Simona. If you're watching on YouTube, you will see some of the crazy antics we got up to. It was an interesting time. Obviously, I came first, as I do on the show, 2 times, both sessions. So this was at Scotland's best indoor track, which used to be called Scott Karts, now part of Team Sport, and it has got a flyover section with a tunnel underneath. But the problem is that these things, when you go along, unless it's people, even if it's booked out with your friends, people turn into complete kids. Not me, other folks. So there was lots of barging and pushing and all the rest of it. But you know, I was triumphant as always. And the funniest part was when we pulled into the pits after the first race, I looked ahead and maybe 3, 4, 5 karts ahead, I saw Simona. She sort of turned around and looked back. So I just gave her a couple of fingers, as I usually do. And then it turned out that I turned to my right hand side and Simona was in the cart there. It was just some poor individual that was there with her dad. So as it happens, this little trophy stays here because, yeah, I reigned supreme. I was triumphant at the karts. Dave, do you want to come next time?
I will come next time. I will also go to the karts, but I will come second because, as we know, Ricky always likes to win.
And I was wearing my Moser F1 top just to give me a little bit more oomph and pizzazz. Didn't wear my Moser watch, actually wore the Manga G-Shock because I thought if someone's going to hit me, and Simona did, she nearly knocked me out the track, you'll see that in the video, I decided to wear that because, you know, it's something that's tank tough, it wasn't going to get buggered up. And she was wearing a watch that, I don't know if it'll be out by the time you hear this, it'll definitely be out by the time you listen to this, but it's a release from the guys at Spinnaker, and it's to celebrate something pretty cool.
This watch, if you're listening to this show on the Thursday, will be launching the day after you're listening to it. If you're listening to any other point after that, it will be in the marketplace. What are we talking about?
2 hours later.
Spinnaker, the brand that have done many a collab, have decided to do a collab on the whole SpongeBob SquarePants theme. Unbelievably, 25 years SpongeBob SquarePants has been on our screen. I can't actually quite believe that, but I am old after all, but it's been around for as long as I can remember. Now, there are 4 characters that have watches that are in this range or themes. We have SpongeBob SquarePants himself, of course. We have Patrick, we have Squidward, and we have Mr. Krabs. We have colour themes going on with them. If you like cartoons, you'll like these. If you're not a fan of a tiny little Snoopy on an Omega, you're definitely not going to be a fan of these because they are very much SpongeBob SquarePants inspired, very cartoony, fun, nice, easygoing summer watches. All of them are fitted to a bracelet, but they all also come with a colour coordinated rubber strap, 43mm in diameter, and they're based around the flagship automatic diver watch within the Spinnaker range, that being the HASS, which is HASS, not HAAS like the Formula 1 team. But anyway, there's more confusion for you. I think these are pretty funky if you like cartoons. I think SpongeBob SquarePants has maybe seen the face of a watch in the past with a brand here or there, but outside of that, definitely a cool looking watch. Coming in at $534 US, so definitely in the more affordable category of watches. We've talked about the size of it. What else can we say? Japanese NH35 automatic movement, 300 meters of water resistance, a sapphire crystal, stainless steel case. It is a 22mm lug width, but it has got a taper, and you've got that fold over buckle and safety lock mechanism on there. And of course, we mentioned the silicone rubber straps that are colour matched. Yellow for SpongeBob SquarePants, of course it is, pink for Patrick, green for Squidward, and red for Mr. Krabs. 300 pieces of each, so a total release of 1,200 watches. Probably will sell out quickly, so if you're keen, make a move.
I can almost guarantee these will sell out very, very quickly, because the response that the teaser images that have gone out have had so far has been pretty incredible. And when this came in for review, because obviously we worked with Vishal and the guys at Spinnaker, we did our Braveheart last year, there's something coming down later on this year, I saw the SpongeBob appear and I thought, I want to have a look at this, I want to actually see how good this can be. And the pictures in the video actually don't do it justice, because it's got a very unique dial that face on just looks like it's printed, but when you hold it to the side you can see it's made of multiple layers, multiple different colours of superluminova, and when you flip it across and you take the bracelet off and you put it on that yellow strap, it just comes alive. If I had to compare it to anything, it would be a cross between maybe the Chaykin Minion watch, which was a lot more expensive, and perhaps the yellow Casio watch that came out a couple of years ago. It's got that kind of feel to it. It's very fun. It looks like a kid's watch a little bit, but then it has got the heft of being a serious 300-meter diver with a Seiko Instruments movement inside. So again, the guys over there, Vishal and the team, are doing fantastic things. Even the presentation box it comes in, which is Pelly Case-esque, has got the SpongeBob printing all around it. It's not just a standard off-the-shelf box. And inside you've got a little tool to change out the strap. You've got the limited edition warranty card. All this for around about 450 quid, $500. It's a win. The only problem is, because it's limited, it will evaporate, because limited editions are starting to pick up now. That one we talked about from Hodinkee, that is now sold out. And reading the comments, a lot of people did not like that. They thought that was a bit of a cash grab. We actually said some good things about it, because we do say good things about Hodinkee, but we've got nothing bad to say about the guys at Spinnaker, apart from sometimes the limited edition releases, they do too little of them, like our Braveheart.
Before we get to the end of the show, we have got another email from a listener in. So Ricky.
Did I not read the last one, Dave? Is it not your turn?
Like that, is it? Okay, I'll read it for you, because I know that you struggle with words.
A few moments later.
Hey, I'm at T_Swiss_T on Instagram and run GMTmaster1675.com and Explorer1016.com. I don't think we've spoken before, but I'm coming to Edinburgh and probably Glasgow and elsewhere in September. First time to Scotland. Would be great to say hi to local watch guys if there's a group that gets together. Thanks for considering. Andrew MD, who works at Harvard Medical School.
Well, it turns out there's this thing called Red Bar, and they do meetups in Edinburgh and Glasgow. There's actually one happening this week that me and Dave will be along to, and there hasn't been one in Glasgow for a while. So Dave, are you going to be doing anything in September?
We definitely have two things lined up. We have a regular meetup for September lined up, probably around the middle, and we definitely have an event that hopefully will come to fruition, possibly back end of September or early October, so I'm sure we will. And I'm more than sure we can get a little group of people together if Andrew wants to come and meet us on a day that there's not going to be a Red Bar.
And we're going to finish up the show by telling you that our collab watch is literally just around the corner. I got a WhatsApp message as we're recording this to say that the first one is coming across for me and Dave to have a look at, so news on that within the week, I would assume. So stay tuned for that one. It is something pretty special. A lot of ingenuity, a lot of things that maybe haven't been done before, and a lot of combinations that you've definitely never seen before. So looking forward to releasing information on that one and letting everybody get a jump on it. And that is pretty much it. The only other thing to say is to go through our back catalogue. We've got tons of shows there, predominantly on Spotify. As we mentioned earlier, the interview episodes generally appear there first. If they're going to appear on YouTube at a later point, sometimes they do, sometimes they don't. But in the back catalogue of recent times, we've got Chris Granger, the CEO of IWC. He was talking about the creation, the design, and the concept processes of making new watches. Some appear in a couple of years, some can take 10 years as movement technology is moving along behind the scenes, and something like their crazy complications that came out this year in their perpetual calendars, that takes a fair deal of time. So that is a great episode to listen to. We've also got David Brailsford from Garrick Watches, another fantastic show that didn't really talk too much about the watches. It talked more about the design process, the mechanical engineering, and actually scouring the internet for 100-year-old machines to keep the processes going. Any other ones I've missed, Dave?
Of course, that police episode we mentioned earlier when we were talking is one that has gone down very well. So if you want a bit of advice about how to stay safe, whether it be out on the street or at home, definitely tune into that episode. We also have a Mont Blanc where we got together with Simon. Now, Simon was doing a live presentation to an audience at the biggest watch show of the year, that being Watches and Wonders, and let the two idiots, that is me and Ricky, into that show as well. That's a good fun one to listen to. Then we had the dial artist on, a fellow Scotsman who does some quirky and cool and unusual things about customizing dials and watches. Lots of episodes, almost 600, not that far away now, Ricky, from 600 episodes in that back catalogue. So there is bound to be one you've missed somewhere. So go check out the back catalogue, have a deep dive, see what you find.
And that is it. So thank you for listening, thank you for watching, and we'll catch you again soon.